All right. This is Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical High School in Franklin, Mass. And the team is about the lunar camper. So introduce yourselves and then share your PowerPoint, please.
Sure. All right. I'm Brian Agostino,
I'm Lauren Brundrett.
I'm Kylie McDonald.
and our presentation is about our NASA lunar camper.
Our problem statement was, how do we, as engineering consultants for NASA, design and create and test a lunar camper that takes up little space when on the ship when arriving on the moon, but still be able to expand within the design requirements.
For our design requirements, we have that on the actual spaceship itself, it needs to be 2 meters long, 1.5 meters wide, and 1.5 meters tall. It has to have wastewater and solid waste storage for like bathroom. It has to have 2 soup ports, a hatch for actually attaching to the habitat itself, and 7 days of food and water. For our customer needs, it needs to be able to be lived in by 2 crew members for 7 days. It also needs to be pulled or fit onto an LTV to like move around the moon itself. It can be docked to the habitat when not in use. It can supply power for itself and charge up the LTV by like solar panels, and it can fit 2 spacesuit ports.
For our research, we decided that pop-up campers that were hard shell were some of the best examples due to their durable, waterproof outer shell, insulated walls and roofs, and airtight seals when they close, as well as how they fold and how they include bunk bed shelves and like the water bottles you also use for airtight, keep the environment out.
For our contacts, I found a RV center near our school. It was in Foxborough, so I emailed them and proposed a field trip idea to see like all their different size campers, like small and big, and see how they expanded. And they replied, said that we could. So we went there, and those 4 pictures are just some of the pictures that we took for inspiration and ideas.
So when we started prototyping, we decided to start with construction paper models to demonstrate the expansion. And this was one of the models that I made. It's right here. And it expands on 4 sides, but
To hold it. Glenn's telling you to hold it up so we can see it better. But we'll see it at the end when you finish showing your slides.
Yeah. So
no, your pictures are good. You can show me that later.
Yeah. Okay.
These were our scaled people models to show what someone would look like next to a camper. They are about scaled for 5 foot 6 inches, so that's around like average height, I think. And so the far left one is a scale down of 10. We have it right here. Mm-hmm. So it can fit our cardboard model that we have that you'll see later, and the one on the far right is one for the paper model you just saw, and the 3D one we have coming up, I think, next.
No, I think your cardboard model.
Okay, this is our cardboard model that we made. And we have it right here.
Okay.
And it was just to like show more ideas that we had in a bigger scale than we had before. Because it's a lot more durable than paper and it didn't rip as much. Try to get
Mhm.
Very nice. I like what you're doing.
Could you repeat that, please? Your mic is kind of cutting out of it.
Yeah, very nice. I like what you're doing. Keep going with this.
All right. So this is one of this. After making the paper and cardboard models, I decided to make a 3D model of telescoping expansion that was the same scale as the paper model. We designed it in SolidWorks and 3D printed it. So this is
You're muted, Glenn.
That's a lot of expansion that you've got there. However, when you expand all of that, how much equipment would already be in there?
Yeah, we were thinking
that was another thing that I was thinking about after I made it, that I realized it would be difficult to fit some stuff in beforehand, which leads me to the next solution. So I took inspiration from a hinge that we saw in the when we were just like when we were in the trailers, like to hold up a table. And I started by making paper models, which are in the pictures. And first I made a bigger one, and then I tried to make a smaller one, which also works to fit more into the scale of the stuff that I've been building for like the prototyping. And then I tried to 3D print one with the smaller scale, but it was too small and broke. So I made one with the original scale that I had. Which those are the files for the 3D printed one, or some of them, and those are pictures of the paper one.
For our testing plan, we plan to make more 3D models, sort of like this one we have right here, the expanding one, and update the 3D models of the scaled people. For our future plans, we wanted to start thinking about the power supply, how it supplies to itself, because we haven't really thought of that. Make 3D models of furniture, like how it goes inside the camper. Make a model of the show interior, and we haven't really thought about the tires either, so that's also something that we would need to think about too.
And some of our questions are, where is the camper going to be unfolded? Like, is it going to be unfolded directly out of directly when it comes out, or like when it ends and is where it needs to stay temporarily?
So on that one, you can imagine that it would depend a little bit on the transportability, right? So if you've got wheels on it and they pull it out of the rocket, they set it down on the ground, and then they expand it. I would expand it as close as I could because it's easier to move it when I've got wheels to pull it around on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, you can make your person out of any material you want. So if you want to make a 3D printed person, you can do that. I just suggested something that was cheap.
Yeah, because we made some 3D printed ones, so we were just wondering about that.
And that would be perfect. I would be just fine with using that.
And then for our last question, we were just wondering if it's hooked on like a trailer, does the hitch have to fit in the 1.5 by 1.5 by 2 meters?
It's a good idea to have everything in one if possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, can you guys go up to one of your, I think it was like the third slide.
And Nancy joined us.
Oh, hey, Nancy. Glad you
Hey,
could be here.
Nancy.
Hey, everyone.
Thank you for joining.
Hey, Nancy. Go back one, go down to 2.
Other way.
Oh, other way or?
Well, you had the dimensions. I wanted to help you
Oh.
out with something.
Yeah, this one?
Yes, where it says 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5 by 1.5 by 2.
Mhm.
Okay. Now look back on there. I changed it so that it's 2 meters by 1.5 meters by 1.5 meters. But I'm not telling you what direction is tall or wide. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In
And
most
and
in
part of what I mean by that, so for example, if this is my 2 meters and then I've got 1.5 meters and 1.5 meters, well, I could also do it this way,
Hmm.
right? And what I mean by that is that if I have 2 meters this way, I don't need to expand it because that's tall enough that I could walk through there. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Yeah.
we in my models we have the 2 meters as the height already.
Excellent. That is terrific. That gives you much more expansion in the other directions. Very smart team, very good. Just correct it in there so that it's easy to remember when you're showing it to other people. Okay?
Put your 2 meters as the height. If you want.
It is an option. It's not a
Yeah.
requirement. Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
All
So
right.
you stop sharing and let's see your models.
Yeah,
All
let's see them.
Click
Stop sharing.
Yeah.
and then
That's
click
good.
OK as well because that's just
Okay.
so.
You chose it.
I'm just gonna go in order. So the paper model is kind of falling apart a little bit because it's a couple weeks old, and it's just construction paper.
That's
But-
okay.
So it expands. It's also the 2 meters tall, and it expands on 3 of the sides, and it also expands in height, which
Uh-huh.
I isn't really necessary. So I kind of scrapped that idea when I made the 3D printed one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll try to get it out without making it fall apart too much, but this one's just a little difficult.
Okay, so you make it go is that forward and backward or is it to the sides relative to the trailer hitch?
With the way I did it, it's to the sides, but it could be the front and back technically, but it looks like that expanded. The back's falling out of it, but
Okay. And so I see that you've got 3 different ideas. And all of them have some validity. Do you guys have one that you are leaning towards?
I was leaning towards this one, but I think we're gonna try to come up with more ideas as well.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try and put multiple expansion ideas
Yeah.
And
into it
take
mostly.
like the advantages from each one and put them into one final.
Okay. So there aren't any of them that I think are terrible ideas. They all look like decent ideas. Now there are some things that make some of them more appealing than others. So for example, when you expand out over several of them, it seems how many places could there be a leak when you have sliding segments?
Is that a question or is that just something to think about?
It's something to think about, right? And so what I mean is, if I have something that slides open, that means that my question is, how do I get that seal from the time when it expands to when, am I losing air at any point when I expand it out? And am I going to be able to get a good seal when I get that full expansion? How much of a gasket do I have to have? Is there a chance that I could have a leak there in the future? So look for ways to make it so that you have the fewer openings that you can. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Make it maybe like an accordion expansion instead of a sliding, that you could have a flexible material. And what we're worried about is air leaks. So that's very precious. We don't want to lose our air.
Now in each of those, let's see. So on some of them, you showed me how there were soup ports, I believe, but then on others they didn't show the soup ports, like the 3D printed one. How how are you going to have the hatch attachment to the habitat? How are you going to have soup ports and things like that?
I think in this one, I was gonna have it just be on either this side or this side, but we haven't really thought about supports yet. We're trying to like look at expansion and then like do it one step at a time.
So expand that blue thing. Would you expand that blue thing? Sorry, Glenn. I just want to see how that expands. Yes, so what's happening is you're using up all the interior so that you don't have room for your beds and food and stuff like that. But you don't have to expand it up you can expand it up 1 or 2, and not use up so much material, interior of the thing. Yeah, that at least you did a good job 3D printing it. It slides. That's not easy to do. And you always could put some kind of fabric over it all so that it doesn't leak outside the getting air, leaking air. Okay, let's see your cardboard one.
I can move over if you want.
So this is our cardboard one. Slide out. It's more traditional campers, like on Earth.
It's hard to do the camera like tilted down. Yeah.
This part's hard, the roof.
Oh, cool. It makes the roof.
Yeah, this is
I know, I like the roof.
this is 2 meters, I think, lengthwise.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Very nice.
And that's a sliding thing too. But as Glenn points out, watch out for the leaks when you have sliding.
So for the Apollo lunar lander, they had this for Apollo 17, they stayed in it for 3 nights, I believe it was. Okay. And remember so the thickness of their habitat or their module was only about the thickness of a couple of aluminum cans. So it really wasn't very thick at all. Okay. Now, any of our inflatable modules that we build, they have like 12 layers of cloth in there. So you can imagine that it's reasonably thick, right? And my point is just, we've got a large variety of thicknesses of materials to work with. You're welcome to work within all of those, okay? You can go really thin and you can have really thick materials that are inflatable or anything. So it's up to you as to how you want to do those materials, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, after you do your expansion, are you expecting that it stays expanded the whole time, or does it need to be compressed afterwards?
We were thinking that it could expand and also compress when it's like needs to be compressed.
Okay. And like campers on Earth, we have to collapse them down so that we can drive on the road, whether it's wind or whether it's going under an underpass or whatever. But that's not a problem on the moon. So if you can leave it expanded and still drive it around all the time, that's perfectly fine. Does that make sense? It saves our crews. If you're the astronaut, do you want to put it down and then take it out, or would you just leave it out as much as you could, right? So that's up to you guys as to how to decide that, okay?
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to 3D print like your table and everything. You could go to a toy store and see if they have some miniature items that you could use that are the correct size, because it has to fit into your camper. But you can 3D print it. You can make it out of cardboard, whatever is easiest for you. However, when you are expanding it for us, you need to take only less than 2 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And what size, Glenn? Is it supposed to be about 19 inches? I can't.
Well, so our real constriction is just that is our spacing on the table. So you can imagine that if you're invited to the final design review, we get 6-foot tables, 6 foot by 2 foot tables, and you get one side of that 6-foot table. So you get about 36 inches of space to be able to display everything. So one thought is you can have your you can have one that you demonstrate how it opens out, right? And if you want to have another one that shows the interior, you can have another one. Just be aware of how much space you have to be able to display. Okay?
Oh yeah, I saw that on the directions that you could have, in other words, 2 set up. One that you are expanding and one with that shows where you're putting all your furniture and items in there.
That's right. Excellent job, team. I like what you're doing. This looks really smart.
Yeah, and you can ask questions anytime. I'm always here to answer your questions. You don't have to wait until we have a review. And your critical design review, you'll have the same amount of table space, and that's going to be at Rutgers in New Jersey on February the 26th and 27th. You get to choose the day. Okay.
Nancy, did you have any comments for him?
Nope, I came in near the tail end, but I did see it expand, things like that. So that was real cool. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right.
Great job, team. I like
Thank you.
seeing your stuff.
Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon there.
You too.
Thanks. Okay, so the next team is Jackson Hall, and I'm not sure they're there yet. But they're supposed to be here in 10 minutes. We're early. I don't know if Billings Career Center is ready to present. Billings, are you ready? You don't have to present until afternoon, but if you're ready, we'll take you. They just have the thing on. We got large gaps between, well, not large, but we have gaps because Jackson Hall and then Frontier is coming a little bit later.
Yeah, I'm hoping to be here for Frontier.
Yeah.
I have a 1:30 and I think they're on at 1:15. So I'm hoping I can see theirs.
They're on your time. Well, I have down 1:45, but if they come early, they could go on 1:15.
Oh, that one. Oh, I must have. Okay, I may have been looking at an older one.
They could go on 1:15 if they come early.
Okay. Yeah, and Flo, so for your biomedical one you're having on November 20th, are those just the straight biomedical or is that biomedical and software?
Biomedical and software is a different day.
Okay, this is a combined biomedical and software. So when are you doing those?
So the biomedical with Ellie is the 19th and 20th.
Okay.
And I should have sent you a.
I did. No, my thing is I was supposed to meet next week on the 12th with who is it? Michael, but he can't do it on the 12th. So I'm going to try to reschedule. And I was going to see if I can do it with, it's just one team. Lisa Say, I was going to see if I can put them in with yours.
Oh, Lisa, we had a big meeting with Lisa. Did she tell you?
What?
My husband is a retired soil scientist, and he spoke to the Dow space farmers for an hour.
Nice.
About soils.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I'm trying to find a time to get Mike and Allie together because her three are biomedical and their software together.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I'll just email them and try to find the time everyone's free. Because
yeah, I can email you and show you all the times that I have for my
Okay,
and
yeah.
you can join if you
Okay.
want. Allie is really, I have her 2 days because I have a lot. Tri-County
Yeah, I
does
know.
4 of them. So that's a lot for them. But we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're still waiting for Jackson Hole, which is usually a little late.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause that. So Jackson Hole is joining, but they always have to join and then not join.
Flo,
Yes.
how well does your husband know? So, Flo, your husband's a soil scientist. Has he done a lot of work with, or has he done any work with lunar soil simulants?
No. No. He knows a lot about our soil, needless to say, but nothing with
Sure,
lunar.
but don't you have places in close by where you were getting some lunar soil simulants from?
Yeah. Stillwater Mine. My son worked there. Actually,
Right.
that's who got it for me. But um that's totally so. So it's regolith because it hasn't been weathered, right? And so when you dig in a mine,
Right.
it's also regolith because it hasn't been um, weathered. But
So
it's
is he pretty familiar with that material?
no, he's more familiar with the top material, the topsoil
Uh,
and for farming and um,
okay.
digging
No, I
holes.
was thinking it might be good to interview him about that.
Yeah, no, he's not really familiar with that material, but
Okay. All right.
but very familiar with the soils on Earth. So here comes
Okay, I'm
Jackson
gonna leave
Hole.
my camera off.
Okay, that might help.
Yeah. Okay, whenever Jackson Hole is ready.
Jackson Hole, we're ready for you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
Great. How's the library?
It's pretty. Yeah.
Okay, good. Do you have a PowerPoint to show?
Yeah,
Or
we do this. Let me
okay.
just screen share real quick.
Yeah, see if you can do that. Because every time they have an issue with that.
Share. Okay. We might be having a slight problem with it also.
Yeah, what they have to do is they leave the meeting and come back and they got it.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna make me quit and reopen Zoom, so I'll be back on in like a minute or two.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. They just froze.
So yeah. So students, if you guys can stop the presentation, that way you will go straight. And then Flo, I'm gonna have to leave in a few minutes, but I wanted to make sure it's recording because I won't be here when Frontier comes.
Yeah, they're here actually.
I have to step off at 1:30 my time here, or I have to step off in a few minutes as well.
Okay. Because Frontier actually doesn't start until 20 more minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We were scheduled at 1:15.
At 1:15? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they started in 1:15.
So we only have these kids here for another 20 minutes because the day ends in 20 minutes.
All right, so they're going to stay ready because these guys are almost over.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, so this is our idea for a folding camper, and basically, like, this is what it looks like, just like the normal box, and then it comes up, and then these come up as this is like the seal in. It's not like the best prototype yet, but we're like exploring different materials that will help seal the air, and then basically just making this a better version of what it is now because it's not the best right now, and finding like a better hinge system than paper.
Okay. How are you going to seal that?
We were thinking of we haven't really explored the sealing yet, but we were thinking maybe like combining like something here so that when it just opens, it just you don't even need to bring this up. It's already like sealed.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't really explored many ideas of it yet, but we're actively pursuing like ways to seal it and make sure it's airtight.
Okay. Yeah, that's make that your number one priority, okay?
Okay, we'll do.
All right. It's an interesting way to expand. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Do you have another one there?
No, that's it. All we have left is a few couple questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, let's get to your questions.
Okay, what do you guys think like our final prototype should be like built out of, like wood or like a type of metal, or is that something we should just find ourselves?
So you can make your prototype out of anything, right? I mean, whether you want to use, cereal box cardboard or if you've got some cloth you want to use for an expansion thing or whatever, the materials that you choose just need to fit your need. But as you're doing that, you want to be thinking about, if I was going to send this to the moon, what would I use? And you want to be able to tell us what that next step is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
what other questions you got?
Our last question is, how should we deal with like plumbing and septic tanks? And Aaron can further explain that.
Yeah, so a problem we had was we were planning on putting the septic tank on the side, but we figured with the moon's gravity, it wouldn't work. The plumbing wouldn't be so great.
Why is that?
It wouldn't decompose properly if we did septic tanks, and it would also get too cold, too warm, and then also it would just not exactly drain, is what we were told.
Okay. Well, so it still has gravity. Yes, it's 1/6 gravity. Now we're not going to put it outside, right? We don't want to put poop all over the moon. That doesn't look good for anybody. And the reality is we're going to be bringing it back and recycling that water. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know it doesn't sound like much fun. However, your idea of it not being on the outside is smart, right? We don't want it to overheat and we don't want it to freeze. So you're probably going to have like your water tank and your sewage tank inside in some fashion so that when you dock to the habitat, they can open the hatch, pull out the poop, and put in clean food, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Now, expect that your poop tank and your water tank are probably going to be similar in size. Your poop tank is probably a little bit bigger just because it's going to include all the food that you eat ends up coming out, right? And so it'll probably include a little bit bigger volume. Mm-hmm. Now, when you go camping for a week and you don't get to make, you can send hot dogs, but you don't get to cook your hot dogs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how much food do you need for 2 people for a week? What would it fit in?
You mean like what would we need to store it in?
Well, how much of a space do you need for food for 7 days for 2 people?
I mean, you're only at least from my experience, I would say, with like MREs and stuff, you probably are only going to need, depending on what they're going to use, like a small cubby.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Something like about the size of a good sized cooler, right?
Yeah.
And so if you've got a good sized cooler of food, and that's going to have some packaging and whatever, So you don't need a whole lot of space, but it's just something that you have to build off of that, right?
Mhm.
Here's a good size cooler. It's got my energy bars, and it's got, some cereal and whatever. And then over on the side, I've got a tank of like somewhere on the order of about 20 gallons or so, right? And then does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yep. And you guys can always ask me any questions that come up during the week. Just copy Mr. Anderson. And thank you so much. That was a very interesting presentation. We got to move on to Frontier because they have a time that they have to leave shortly. So
Okay.
thank you, Jackson Hall.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you. All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
Frontier is up.
All right. So
Thank you for waiting.
No problem. This is our new team.
Awesome.
We got 4 of them here. Yeah. So we only have until 1:45. So I'll let them introduce themselves. It's a new team. It was originally these 2 here on the end, but their teammates are gone. So we pair them up with these 2 new players. So
okay, and just we know the constraints and the requirements. Just show us your designs and your ideas.
Okay, so
but introduce yourself first, please.
My name is Ivana. I'm a senior, and so I wanted to design. I'm okay. So
oh, yes.
I wanted to design like an organic figure because I think it's like it's better to have something original than like something that everybody just does. And so I have like a sliding door to get in.
Oh, yes.
I thought it'd be cool. And like I have solar panels on the top of the roof and a window that's like in the front and 3 wheels specifically because it'll just be like better to like drive on the moon, if that makes sense.
I like that.
I've made a few designs. They're not very good.
Okay.
We're probably gonna go with the one up top here. That's the one the seniors like.
Can you explain that design a little bit? It looks like you have put some interior things in there.
Yeah, I had bunk beds, storage, and the storage has 9 different compartments or 3 rows for food, water, and waste.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so we got like a few different ideas going here because they all joined together kind of late. So the idea is that they're going to mash them all together in the coming time.
And that's what NASA always does. It takes several different ideas, takes the best thing from each of them and puts it together. So you're doing it exactly right. That's awesome. What else do we have here?
So me and Maddie, who just showed you the notes, we worked on like kind of showing how everything would be laid out in it.
Oh wow!
Like, the bunk beds are in the back, the storage is.
So yeah, I see the bunk beds, and they're blue and red, and storage and the table. That's pretty cool. So
we kind of like there's windows on the side, but doors on the front. We just made it open like that so we could like, show you the interior.
Mm-hmm. So don't forget the space suit ports. So somewhere on there, you need to have 2 suit ports. And so the astronauts can exit through those space suit ports because they can't walk out the door. They will they won't survive. They need to be in their spacesuits. Have you thought about the spacesuit ports, where you're going to put them?
Not yet. We were working on we had like very limited time to work on this because of our last partners not being able to.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a good start. That's a good model. So thank you for showing that. And we have one more.
Hi, I'm Mason. I would just we just kind of joined this project late. I was thinking my first kind of initial thoughts were more of a the base, how it's going to get around and stuff, because I feel like the rest of it is pretty easy to kind of collapse after you get all the kind of complicated stuff out of the way. So the wheels, how it's going to move around, how it's going to attach, the space ports and stuff like that. So that was kind of my initial thought on that, was how are we going to get all that stuff to be compactable, and then just kind of build on top of it in that compactable, keeping that same kind of camper feel where everything can be folded up and then just made into a flatbed kind of to be loaded up onto the spaceship.
So that's an important part of it. And what you have to remember is that once this expands on the moon, you can keep it expanded. It's not like here you have to collapse it. So just expand it and keep it expanded, so that it will be much easier to have your interior, right? Because it's always going to be set up the way you want it. I was suggesting to the team, I don't know if you heard, were you listening on to the Jackson Hole team?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't record this. I wasn't on record, but Jackson Hole happens to be in the mountains, the Grand Tetons, so they all ski. And we were talking about the wheels like you are. And I suggested, well, maybe skis would work instead of wheels. So I like you to think outside the box, like our first young lady did, with her drawing. She says, I don't want it to look normal. Why have it look normal? So I want you to be creative on that, but meeting all the requirements. And one requirement besides that spacesuit port you got to start thinking about is keeping the air enclosed, not having any leaks. All right, we want a window, so you had that window, but we want to keep the air enclosed so that we don't have any leaks, because the temperature and the dust is a big problem. So when you build your thing, maybe you need to encompass some material outside of it. I don't know what you're going to use, but you could use something to make sure that we're not leaking any air outside to the moon. Does that make sense? And Glenn just joined us. Glenn, why don't you show that box, the cardboard box you just showed me to Glenn?
So we have the drawer on this side, but we made it openable from this side, so we could show more of the interior that way. There's bunk beds in the back. We have storage. We have a toilet, and we have a table. And also we have windows.
All right, I hate to cut you guys off, but our bell is gonna ring here in a minute. So I gotta let these guys go so they can catch the bus and get home. But
all right, keep up the good work, everyone.
Excellent job, guys. Keep this up.
Thank you.
I like it a lot.
Okay. Thank you so much.